Welcome to the Spy Collection Digital Edition, where we're looking at spy artifacts that only exist in digital format. Here is Anastasios, and in this episode, we look at a once top-secret British cyber spying capability, which also acts as a follow-up episode from our last year's video on GCHQ's early covert cyber operation capabilities. All of those originate from Edward Snowden's leak, since GCHQ was sharing almost everything they had with their American counterpart, the NSA, which is where Snowden was working at the time of the leak. In any case, back in that presentation we saw GCHQ's JT-RIG, the Joint Threat Research Intelligence Group, which was leading the research and development of early cyber capabilities. In that presentation, thanks to the presenter notes, we learned that among others, in the period of 2011-2012, JT-RIG significantly disrupted Taliban operations in Afghanistan by bombarding them with text messages and calls. Among the various leaked files, it was also a screenshot of JT-RIG's internal wiki page, called GCWiki, which was like an inventory of the capabilities they had. And here is where we learned for the first time about Scarlet Emperor, the code name for a tool that JT-RIG had developed to perform targeted denial of service against target phones via call bombing. Basically what we read in the other presentation that the agency successfully did to covertly disrupt the Taliban operations in Afghanistan. And we also find Warpath, described as a tool for mass delivery of SMS messages to support an information operations campaign. So let's start with the latter, Warpath. Believe it or not, this capability is still being used for information operations to this day. Actually, in Tradecraft Sunday episode 19, we presented very recent practical examples of how this was implemented and used for information operations by Russia and Ukraine the last few years, and continues to this day, of course. Or literally a couple of weeks ago, Iranian intelligence sent SMS messages to Israelis in an attempt to recruit them as informants. And even more recently, the Israeli Mossad has been sending messages to Iranian protesters like, "Go out together into the streets. The time has come. We are with you. Not only from distance and verbally, we are with you in the field." Apparently, there are many ways to implement that Warpath tool nowadays, ranging from SIM farms to mobile base stations, hacking into mobile operators, and various others. But back when Warpath was developed, it was much easier than it is today. Literally from the 90s to this day, cyber criminals exploit simple vulnerabilities like misconfigured or vulnerable SMS gateways, mobile devices infected with malware, and other similar systems to offer SMS bombing as a service. But putting the implementation aside, this tradecraft is as effective today as it was back in the times of Warpath being a top-secret capability of GCHQ. For instance, as we read in SMEX from September 2024, for the past week, people in Lebanon have been receiving anonymous messages with threats and calls to evacuate their homes in specific areas. The Israeli military also hacked radio waves, broadcasting warning messages while drivers were listening to their car radio. So, although Warpath is now a decades-old capability, it's still as effective as it was back then, and you can be absolutely certain that GCHQ will still have a new and improved version of it, very likely with a different code name. And now about Scarlet Emperor, the call bombing tool of GCHQ. Again, it's the same story. The implementation varies greatly, but the core principle of the capability remains as relevant today as it was back before this was publicly disclosed. Imagine people being unable to call anyone during crisis, or even worse, ending up completely ignoring their mobile phones simply because they don't stop ringing, basically denying them the capability of using this powerful technology. For instance, last September, the US Secret Service disrupted a SIM farm in New York City, and among other things, they stated that this network has the potential to disable cell phone towers and essentially shut down cellular network in New York City. Matt McCool, special agent in charge of the service's New York field office, said in a statement. Or even further back, in 2012, a hacktivist group named Team Poison flooded the British police and MI6 hotlines, making them inoperable for nearly 24 hours. They did it in protest of the European Court of Human Rights decision to extradite Babar Ahmad Adel Abdel and others as terrorists to the US. In another part of the world, in Malaysia in 2018, during the general election, mobile phones belonging to candidates from various political parties allegedly came under continuous waves of telephone denial of service attacks. The candidates complained that they received unknown robocalls from overseas nearly every minute, supposedly to disrupt their communications with party organizers during the election. And hopefully those are sufficient examples to demonstrate that, just like Warpath, GCHQ's Scarlet Emperor is still an important cyber capability, and despite still being actively used globally by several different nation-state and non-state actors, you rarely see it hitting news headlines. But that shouldn't surprise you, since in the world of covert and clandestine operations, such events happen every day, but most people never get to know them. And in case you wonder, how could one protect against those? It's something that governments and militaries have also been doing for decades. It's having a plan, along with alternative channels of communication. The most widely known framework comes from the US military and is called the PACE Communications Plan. For instance, you can agree between you and your peers that your primary communications could be your mobile phones. Your alternate could be, let's say, a radio like Mestastic or the more traditional VHF/UHF, depending on the distances. Then your contingency could be a SATCOM device, and your emergency could be firing a flare of a specific color to indicate a specific event. Of course, this is just an example. In real life, PACE is more complex, and usually starts from the most secure method to gradually moving to the less secure. But for everyday people, just having some pre-agreed communications plan can really make a difference if someone decides to point something like Warpath or Scarlet Emperor to your direction. Also, please let us know if you are aware of any other call or SMS bombing incidents that you found interesting and we omitted in this episode. And also, what do you think about those capabilities like Scarlet Emperor and Warpath in today's world? How relevant are they? From our side, we hope that this shed some light to a couple of more of cryptic code names from the British intelligence community and gave you enough details to see that in the world that we live in, nothing is as it seems.